Welcome to the Success with Jewelry podcast, where we invite you inside our conversations about business success and marketing for jewelry designers and entrepreneurs.
We're Liz and Laryssa, jewelry marketing experts with a combined 16 years of experience in jewelry marketing and proven track records in helping jewelry brands meet their goals. When you listen to or watch this podcast, you get an intimate and exclusive peek behind the curtain of all the things you wish you could know about earning success in this industry.
Welcome to episode 80. In this episode, Liz and I are going to answer the age-old question, how do I define my target audience? And we'll be covering three main points: how to know what makes your jewelry brand unique and your actual jewelry unique to define the essence of your brand, how to imagine who might resonate with that unique value and story, and how to actually try to find these people and engage with them. We also want to tell you about our insider community. When you join, you'll have access to extended episodes full of tips that you can start implementing today and further resources about each topic we discuss. In the bonus content, we share some brands that we think know their target audience very well and how they actually build relationships with that audience. To get access to exclusive content, as well as direct access to me and Liz, sign up by visiting successwithjewelry.com. Hey, Liz, let's get into it.
Let's get into this topic that is really a tough topic, right?
It's it's very nuanced. I think it's hard. It'll be hard for us to talk about it in a podcast episode, but I think we can get people on the right track.
I get this question a lot about like how do you define your audience, and I think that there's a lot of tools that are like put out there, like creating customer personas and imagining who they are. And I think that the way that we're going to talk about it today will be hopefully a little bit more helpful.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get started with the first point. It's kind of like before you can even get to defining your target audience, there's a lot of pre-work. And so if you're struggling with the defining part, you may want to like walk it 5 steps back and think about your unique value proposition, not only with your brand, but what in the marketplace makes your products unique.
I think that sometimes people start, like I'm going to write my social media content or like do my content strategy. And it's like they're not even sure of their brand yet.
Mhm.
And I think the same thing goes for like defining your audience. Like you need to know your brand and be clear on that before you do anything else.
It's so true. Yeah. And even if you think you know your brand, I would say before you do this exercise, it might be worth to kind of go back, revisit, like, has anything changed? Have you had any new insights? Maybe you want to see like who else is in the market. Are there any other new brands that have come in since you started doing this work?
And if you're not clear on it, nobody else will be clear on it. And I think that it's just so important. And one of the bigger things I see when I'm talking to, I'm consulting a client or a designer, and I'm looking at the content they're putting out there, is that they're kind of trying to say too much or they're saying not enough. It's like you kind of have to find the sweet spot of like who you are and what you want to be saying.
Yeah. What would be too much, do you think? Like, you don't have to give a specific example, but like, what's too much?
I think that like you just have so many different narratives going. Like every month you donate to a different charity and you want to share the story about your sustainable gemstones, but you also want to share the story about how everything's handcrafted in your studio. And then you want to be collaborating with this other person. And then you have these 5 trunk shows coming up. And like you're saying all those things on top of each other. And not saying all of that's like bad. That could all be a part of your story. But sometimes when you just like have all of these ideas flowing and you're not like fully articulating any of them, it just
Mhm.
feels like a lot.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And it's just like the clearer you are, again, the clearer you are, the clearer your customer will be, because we're just like, as consumers out here in the world, we're like just getting marketed to all of the time. And I think that this is an important thing to consider, like, knowing your brand. But I'm glad we're talking about knowing your audience too, because and we'll get into this more in the bonus episode, but when a brand really knows you or knows their target audience, like it feels like they're talking to me. When a
Mhm.
brand really hits, it's just amazing. And
Mhm.
of course I want to buy their product.
Yeah, if you're just throwing a lot of stuff at the wall to see what sticks, I do want to say sometimes that's necessary, like at the beginning, because you need to figure stuff out. But if you're on like year 5 of your business and you're still like throwing stuff at the wall, it's time to make some decisions and like hone in on what it is that you want to say.
And you can't, if you're doing like all the things at once too, you can't really see the results of what's working. So sometimes it feels like, to me, and I just did a big marketing push for the Stay Gold Collective, and I like put a strategy together and I like followed it through. While I was doing it, I was like, it does kind of feel like I'm just like throwing this at the wall to see if it sticks. But it was also like within this strategy and really specific, and it's
Mhm.
something I can like look back on and analyze later.
That's so true. Yeah, because you don't want to just have like a mess of data and then try to compare apples to oranges to grapes and not really understand, well, what of these things did work?
I think that creatives are idea people, for the most part. Like a lot of designers I talk to just have a lot of ideas. And I'm either met with that, which is great. It's amazing to have ideas, but you just again can't do them all at once. Or I'm sometimes met with, well, I just love making jewelry and I don't know what else to say about it.
I know, I know. I did have a note here that's like your story needs to be more than just like I saw a void in the market and I wanted to fill it with my vision, aka like I just like to make jewelry. Because a lot of times when I hear that from people, it's coming from a perspective that's a little bit with blinders on because they haven't like fully done the market research and found that there actually is a lot of similar stuff out there. So if you want to do that, we really need a differentiating factor.
It's this like inspired by nature concept. Like, okay, you're inspired by nature. Like hundreds of jewelry designers are inspired by nature. What about nature are you inspired by? Like get more specific.
Yeah, in your own voice.
Mm-hmm.
It's so true. Yeah, and put a unique spin on it.
Totally. You need to understand what makes you unique and why people buy from you, and what you have to offer. And you might need to like ask people about this or like, tap into your network to like, this is what I think. What do you think? Because it is hard to do when you're in it, I think.
And it's going to change too. Like if you literally just started selling, that message on day 1 is going to be so different from like year 10 because you're going to have more insight. Your business is going to evolve. Your brand storytelling is going to evolve. But you need to start with something.
I think that might hold people back too, is this idea that like you need to like when you do your brand book, it needs to be like set in stone and like
Mhm.
permanent. But that's absolutely not true. I've worked for big brands that revisit their brand book every year.
Oh, it's freeing to know that like that could change. I mean, I wouldn't be changing it like every other day and just flying by the seat of your pants, but know that it's not, yeah, like Liz said, set in stone.
Definitely. And once you are clear on your brand, you want to make sure that this is something you're communicating really, really well and really, really directly.
And having this is such like a cheesy phrase, but like the elevator pitch or whatever. Like make sure you can say it in one sentence, but that sentence still has your like unique essence in it. So it's not just like jewelry inspired by nature, like Liz said, which insert 1,000 jewelry brands that could have that same tagline. So what is more special about your approach?
And then once you get clear on like who you are and why you're doing what you're doing, then you can get into imagining who might resonate with your unique value and story.
Yeah, I think that most brands with the best brand stories and the like most specific value propositions, the clearest ones, they're not for everyone. And that's actually a good thing. I think we've said this a bunch of times before. If you cater to everyone, then you're catering to no one. So don't be afraid to speak to your people because that will bring so much more clarity into your story.
Yeah, it's like Marla Aaron's like fine jewelry is fun kind of thing. Like some people don't connect with her jewelry, but the people who do really, really do. And we'll talk about that more again in the bonus episode with more examples. But I think that, you know, every time we talk about like marketing and like trends for like the upcoming year, for the past like year and a half we've been doing this podcast, it's like lean into your niche. And we've been saying that, and it's just so much more important now that like it's an even more crowded marketplace. And since the pandemic, so many brands have come online that customers are like constantly being marketed to. And it's like, you can't talk to everyone. You'll lose everyone by talking to everyone. You need to lean into your niche.
Yes, exactly. I feel scary to niche down because there is this sense that you're closing yourself off to other things, but you just have to change your mindset about it. That actually by narrowing, you're opening yourself up to more within that space.
And more passion behind it too. So, people who like are really seeing what you're doing and really connecting with it. And again, building a community around it.
And it's so important, especially if you're just starting out with all this, to get out there in the world. Being behind a screen, even if you're an e-commerce brand, that is the hardest, longest journey to like figuring out your target audience because you can't interact with them as readily. So if you're out there in the world doing events, doing trunk shows, pop-ups, whatever kind of in-person interactions, that's the best way to meet your audience, talk to them, learn about them, build relationships with them, all those things.
And if you're like very new and maybe you're not at a point where you're doing in-person events or trunk shows or anything like that, like wear your jewelry out to the
Yes.
coffee shop, to the grocery
Yes.
store. Like take into account like what comments you get from people.
That's such a good point. Yeah. Drench yourself in your jewelry.
Totally. Because I think that that's like the biggest pushback or challenge with defining an audience is that, oh, I'm so new. I don't have enough sales to even understand what's happening yet, or I haven't done any direct to consumer events or anything like that. And it's like, well, wear your jewelry, see what your friends think, like get some perspective from somebody outside of yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would caution against paying too much attention to what your friends think
Very
because
true.
I've had people come to me, like potential clients come to me at their very early stages of the business, and they are just like, I'm so confused. My friends tell me this thing, I think this way, other industry people tell me this way. And it's just a lot of mixed messages. And when people like know you, they have their own biases and stuff like that. And so friends are great. Keep your friends. But I would encourage you as soon as you can to try to like branch out from that because you'll get more realistic feedback.
Definitely. And like take step into account and write it down and just kind of see what like is overlapping or like what kind of comes through the most and also what feels really good to you because you don't have to follow every piece of advice that's thrown at you.
People love to give advice, unsolicited advice.
People love to give advice. Agreed.
Yeah. So the next step after that is like once you kind of have an idea of who these people are, or even like a hypothesis, try to find them in the world on the internet and engage with them and build relationships. And so at this point, I'm not even talking about like trying to sell to them, like try to create a community so that you can get more information about these people and really like build those connections.
Right. So if you notice that a lot of people who are connecting with your work love art, then get involved with like a museum committee or organization, like kind of in the museum space or in the art world to connect with your audience.
Yeah, that's an amazing point. You need to like go find the spaces, the communities where they're already like spending time and then put yourself in front of them.
That's the best way to build a network. When you know, I was working for Todd Reed in Boulder, Colorado. Just he had this amazing events gal who like just knew everyone on the block and like went to all of everyone's events, like all the local events. Like she was there wearing the jewelry, like chatting with people, building relationships. And that's such an important thing to be doing is to like be getting out there and building relationships because, it's not necessarily all going to happen online. Like there's certainly things you can do to find these people and build relationships online, but it's going to be so much easier just to like get out in your local community to start building your business.
Yeah. You need to be your own hype person, your own like PR team, until you can get to the point that you can hire all of that. And that is, I think, for someone like what we said closer to the beginning of the podcast, like, oh, I just like to make jewelry and that's why I'm doing this. There is an element of you have to also feel comfortable with this other part of it to whatever extent you can rally yourself to do, because it really is the only way to connect with the people that will buy your jewelry or to understand them even.
Mm-hmm. And even if you live in a really small town and maybe you don't live in a place that, is your target audience, I think still connecting with your local community can help you expand your network.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great point. I like
I
that.
I think that a lot of people start businesses now and with the idea of like, oh, I can do it all online. And you can do a lot online. I think you'd agree with that, Laryssa.
Mhm.
But I think that it is not easy to build a jewelry business. It's just there's a lot of competition out there. So the clearer you are on who you're trying to talk to and starting local with that, or starting tapping into your friends and family and then tapping into their friends and family and like expanding your network that way could be a really good approach to find a foothold.
That's a good point. I know you can do a lot online, but I think that what people don't see about the most successful, like e-commerce first brands, is all the money that gets poured into the customer acquisition part, which usually happens through advertising, through collabs, through influencer partnerships. Like there's a lot that people don't see. It's not just a magic rush of customers to your store for no reason at all.
And when we talk about a lot of money, we're saying a lot of money, like
Like
huge
millions of dollars.
millions of dollars. Even at the low end, I mean, we could do a whole episode about this, like uncovering digital marketing. That could be a good episode. But like, at the very least, you need to be spending like 3 grand a month on ads if you're going that direction.
Yeah. And without the expectation of that immediately turning a profit either, which what small business owner can swallow that pill? You want me to spend $3,000 a month on ads without any guarantee of seeing that money back, at least for a little bit?
I know we've kind of gone off the rails here, but I just cannot stress enough. I cannot stress enough the importance of direct outreach and tapping into actual humans and their networks. It's how you build a business, in my opinion. My business didn't start out of nowhere. My business started because I was at trade shows, walking, spending 30 minutes talking with each designer I met, at least, sometimes longer. Dinners, like 10 years of this. And
Yeah.
now I feel like I can like talk to a lot of designers and like a lot of people trust me because I was out there doing the work. And I
Yeah.
just, I want to put that out there because it is knowing your audience, knowing your brand, but it's also doing a lot of this work to build relationships.
Liz, that's so true. I just want to clap. I just want to clap. I mean, what do I want to say about that? Like, I think people see the state in which the business is in right now, and they don't understand like all the stuff that had to happen to like get to the point where they're successful or whatever point they're at, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's so true. I think a lot of people don't see it. And I've seen it like firsthand just with some of the businesses I've worked at, like all of the on the ground kind of like connection building conversations and things like that happen. But I think that for some newer designers, they don't know that all of that has to go into it.
Hmm. It's a tough one. I
Did we
mean, I
even
put
answer the
some,
question?
what was that?
Did we even
Did we
answer?
answer the question? I don't know. I put some questions in here like to kind of help you find people. Are they on social media? Do they even shop online? Can you find them at other events? Can you collaborate with other brands to find them? Like, can you collaborate with influencers or influential people in your community? Maybe those like not so traditional quote unquote influencers. Do whatever it takes to build, like, literally do whatever it takes to build genuine relationships with whoever you can, even if it's on the most super grassroots level. Be generous with your time and energy so you can create and build those meaningful connections and then learn from those connections and continue to evolve and learn from there.
Yes, to all of that. Those are good questions to answer. I think that it brings up the point of like how important collaboration is again, which we've, been talking about this year, especially. I saw this great collaboration with this jewelry designer, Laura Woods, and she collaborated with this great store local in Asheville called Garden Party. And she does like these kind of dream day events where she picks a business owner. This month it's the gal who owns Garden Party, but she goes through their dream day, like, and she photographs them like wearing her jewelry, like going to their favorite bookshop, their favorite coffee shop, and all of that. And I thought that was like such an amazing way to collaborate locally, like choosing a business owner, putting them in your jewelry, and then also having the collaboration opportunity with some of the locations they're choosing to go to on their dream day.
Where does she post that on social media?
Yeah, she posted it on social media. And then they're doing a big pop-up next weekend that I'm gonna go to, that's gonna have her jewelry and stuff from Garden Party. And it feels like a different way to collaborate and do something really, really fun.
I love this idea. I feel delighted by
I,
it.
I I'm so glad. I know this is a little bit off topic, but I think collaborations, and I think that the collaborations, like the people she's choosing to collaborate, at least in this instant of this project, feel so aligned. So that it really does make sense. The other thing I wanted to say that you mentioned is that with influencers, I really want to put it out there because I've been getting questions about influencers a lot, is that like nano influencers are in, and that's like people with less than 5,000 followers.
Mhm.
So if you have a top client or like collectors who have 1,000 followers, like it could be really cool to do a collaboration with them and consider them influencers.
Totally. Yeah. Forget the like traditional, whatever you think about influencers, throw that out the window.
It's
I
different.
think, yeah, you need to get more creative with who you collaborate with. And I think that those kind of partnerships can really, actually, really be successful if they're with the right person and with the right like intention and strategy behind it.
Well, so we didn't really answer the question of how to define your client, but I think we talked around it and I think we gave some really good ideas.
Because there is no one path. I think it's something you have to feel your way into, especially at the beginning. There's no one prescribed formula to do it.
And that's so true. I mean, you could do all the customer personas in the world. You could, imagine what latte they're ordering from Starbucks. But it's like really going out and finding them. That's the most important piece.
Yeah. I mean, that part can certainly help. I don't want to knock customer personas because I think people need that structure to even like get your brain churning about this exercise. But you're right. That has to be like a three-dimensional, real, living, breathing person.
Definitely. So, I mean, I think answer some of the questions we've asked. Think about who's already buying your work and think about, if you have customers to kind of base it off of and see what they have in common, what, they're, interested in, what comes
Mhm.
through as something that most of your customers are, interested in as they're drawn to your work. And yeah.
Yeah. So we want to know after this episode where we fully did not answer our own question, are you still struggling to define your target audience? Let us know. Visit successwithjewelry.com. We'd love to know what you're thinking, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have. Thanks for listening, everyone.